When Paul wrote to Timothy in 2 Timothy, Timothy was so struggling with fear that he was actually tempted to be ashamed of the Lord and ashamed of Paul. How do we know that? Because of 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 8. It says, "Be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me his prisoner." Timothy understood that if he remained faithful to the call of God, faithful to the Lord, it could cost him his life. And not only that, Paul was in prison in Rome at that time. To be an associate of Paul could make you an accomplice of Paul. And people were bailing out on Paul left and right. He was losing all of his faithful friends because no one wanted to be called his accomplice. And Timothy apparently was having the same temptation. He says, hey, don't be ashamed of the Lord, and don't be ashamed of me. What was the root of that shame? What was the root of that? Well, the answer to that is in verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear." The word fear is really the word cowardice. When a spirit of fear is operating in you, it makes you afraid to face life. It makes you afraid to face anything you have to deal with. And Paul says, God's not given you a spirit of fear which makes you into a coward, but instead God has given you power, love, and a sound mind. "Be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of the Lord, nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of God." And here's the promise. If you'll take a stand, and if you will rebuke that spirit of fear, the power of God will come alongside of you so that you can face anything you have to face today. And a spirit of cowardice does not have to have a place in you. God did not give you a spirit of fear that turns you into a coward. And if you'll take a firm stand, put your eyes on the Lord, and determine that you're not going to move in faith, the power of God, according to verse 8, will come alongside of you. Even if it's tough, even if you suffer, Paul says you'll do it according to the power of God. That word "according to" is the word kata, which means being dominated by the power of God. It doesn't matter how tough the situation is. You can experience the power of God in your situation. Don't forget that. That's something for you to think about today.